Today we are discussing A Haunting in Venice, once again directed by and starring Kenneth Branagh, adapted from Agatha Christie's murder mystery books, beginning with Murder on the Orient Express, followed by Death on the Nile, and now we have A Haunting in Venice. Hercule Poirot, now retired, lives alone in Venice, but another murder quickly springs him back into the detective role. So it took nearly 4.5 years between Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, and now a year and a half later we have the third installment in this franchise, A Haunting in Venice, a film I'll admit I kind of forgot about. This is a franchise I like but don't love. When Death on the Nile initially was announced, I was excited, but ever since that film's release, I haven't necessarily wanted any more of these movies. The only thing that's kept me wanting more is Kenneth Branagh's portrayal of Hercule Poirot. I think he's really good in this movie, just like he was in the first two. He has all the charisma needed for a role like this, and the only reason I'd be disappointed not getting more films from this franchise is because it'd be the end of Kenneth Branagh as his character. When I was a little kid and saw Kenneth Branagh as Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, I thought to myself, I like this person. I want to see him act in more movies. And then we went like a decade without Kenneth Branagh in any major roles until Murder on the Orient Express. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I really miss seeing this guy in big roles, and thankfully, these movies, as well as Christopher Nolan, have revitalized the guy's career. Besides Branagh, one thing I've always liked about these movies is how they plant clues for the audience along the way to give you an idea of who may or may not be the murderer. With that said, because of this, all three films have good rewatch value, something I can't say about many movies that come out in present day. So many times I see movies each year and say to myself, I'm never watching this movie again. There is no point, but that's not the case with the Murder on the Orient Express movies. But what makes A Haunting in Venice different from the first two entries of this franchise is, of course, the scary elements it introduces. And with Halloween a month and a half away, it's a good movie to catch in the theaters right now. I'm personally somebody who loves watching scary movies in theaters and at home around this time of year, so I think you should check this one out if you're somebody who does enjoy some horror elements. So clearly this movie was intended to feel different. I think for most people it'll work. Unless of course you're a die-hard fan of the first two movies, you might not like how this movie is a little scary. But a problem I have with the horror theatrics in A Haunting in Venice is how they don't go all out. This is not a scary movie. If you're somebody who saw the trailer and said, there's no way I'm watching this movie because it looks too scary, don't worry, it's not scary at all. There's a couple of jump scares, there's a few uneasy, tension-filled scenes, but for the most part, this movie does feel like the first two movies. The environment is creepy, at times the cinematography is chilling, and there's a few jump scares for you horror enthusiasts, but if you go into this movie thinking it's going to be this horror movie, that is not the case. It's way more of a mystery movie like the first two than a horror movie, which is disappointing. I wish it was a 50-50 split, so I think they could have used more horror elements. Also, if you saw the first two movies and are hoping this film is something entirely new or thought-provoking, it's not. Imagine the layout of the first two films. That's exactly A Haunting in Venice. Don't let the horror elements sugarcoat the movie's plot. All the characters are brought into the fold, someone gets murdered, they're all interviewed by Poirot, and then it's revealed who committed this crime at the end of the movie. So if you're somebody who really enjoyed the first two movies, you're going to be in for a treat this time too, because it's nearly the same exact movie as the first two. It has a couple of cool horror elements introduced, but it doesn't go far enough to the point where I can call this a horror movie. The cast is good for a third straight movie, especially Kenneth Branagh as Poirot. I think it's a fine time at the theater if you're somebody who likes these type of movies and enjoyed the first two. So I'm giving A Haunting in Venice a 7 out of 10. I also gave the first two movies a 7 out of 10. It's not a great movie franchise, but it's good. It's enjoyable, and I do like all three movies. I don't think there was a bad movie of the trilogy. So for those of you who have seen A Haunting in Venice, let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are of it. And of course, as always, if you are new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.